So what's up, guys? Nandra here. Today's video is going to be slightly different. I'm going to be trying a different approach. Um, so the first thing I want to say first is that first I finally got 500 wins. So hi, Dragoncraft Adept finally. I got it at 434.56 or 456 points. So I'm really happy about that. All right. Today's replay, to commemorate that, is going to be a lot of different dragon replays. First, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the list I'm using. All right. So, the deck is called Thunder in Heaven just because I play Zeus. You don't even know how many times when we first got the Tempest of the God trailer, how many times that I would watch the fight between Zeus versus Ouroboros. Pretty sure that one scene may be just super hypey for the set, and yeah, and honestly he doesn't disappoint. This deck is more or less similar to other dragon decks that's commonly seen. However, I do have a few different techs. For example, I run one extra Blazing Breath than what most people normally do, at least in North America. In North America, people usually only run one, whereas the Japanese tend to run three. I run two. The reason why I like two is because there are a lot of niche situations where you need to ping off something that's kind of small, and Blazing Breath is just cheap enough that they can go ahead and do it. And it really helps out a lot in the Ouroboros wars, in which you're trying to keep their Ouroboros off the field for as long as possible, while keeping yours on the board so you can get a win. The Lirial is nice because, as you'll see in one of the videos, a free 1 damage ping with an evolve is actually really nice and comes in clutch because the 1 damage ping can go anywhere. It can go to face. It can hit an enemy target. It's really flexible in the things you can do with it, just because you never know when you might need that one extra damage to go ahead and finish off a target, because that does occasionally happen. Like, for example, you can go Lirial plus Breath of the Salamander for two mana, so you can go ahead and for 4 mana clear an Ouroboros. This is really nice, especially in the later stages of the game where you're trying to find opportunities to draw cards. So you can go ahead and use that for 9 mana. You'll take a weak turn, but you can keep the Ouroboros off the board, as well as establish a 4 HP target. And this is important just because if a target is at 4 HP in the Dragon Mirror, they will most likely not play Ouroboros into that, just because you're going to get to clear off their Ouroboros for free, and they're going to be able to establish tempo. The next card is 2 Ayala. So Ayala, I only play 2 of it in this list just because there are a lot of cards that you want to fit into a dragon list. And while I do like Ayala, I actually don't like it that much, because there are some matchups where she doesn't really do that much in. Like, for example, Haven versus Haven, you will just your Ayala is just never going off. It's just a fact. But you do still want to run 2, just because there aren't really any other good options on 3 mana. Also, these Ayalas are animated, so I like that. 2 Dragoon Scyther. I know a lot of people like 3. However, for me personally, in this list, I want 2, just because you do still want to have Dragoon Scyther, because for 3 mana, it can answer a Bahamut. Again, it's compact enough so you can fit it in with a Draconic Fervor in the same turn, and finding good opportunities to draw in the Dragon Mirror is really important. So that way you get to keep up on resources, and also heal a little bit in between, because you don't really get that many opportunities to do so, and you also don't want to be caught with your pants down versus the Bahamut on the board. 2 Rahab. I do like 3 Rahab, however, for this list, I really needed space because, as I said, dragon decks are really compact and just how much you can fit, and you do have to like make cuts somewhere. So I decided to cut him. I do like it because on three versus certain aggro decks, like for example, versus sword, it's really nice because it just kind of gets you a 3-for-1, and then you just like win on the spot. However, versus other decks, like for example Haven, it's not actually the best because most times it will just get tribunaled, and you're just not gonna you're just gonna be like sad. One dragon council. This is important, at least for me, because as I said, card draw is very important. Additionally, dragon doesn't have that many options for things to play on 4, and I really like this because, as you'll see in some of these videos, there are a lot of times where I have like a dead turn 4. I go ahead and pitch a card that's like useless, like maybe say a Lyriel or something like that. I draw 3 cards, and then maybe I hit like a Sybil, or maybe I hit like a Fervor, and suddenly I draw even more cards, and it just like compounds advantage if you can get it off versus maybe say a slow deck, or versus a fast deck that maybe had a kind of slick hand, and you're just trying to like fish for options. It's also compact enough that you can go Breath of Salamander for 6. To AoE wipe a board, and then play Dragon Council in the same turn. A big part of why you occasionally see people play Draconic Fervor at 2 in some Dragon lists is just because in later stages of the game, five mana is a lot. Because the only other cards that you can play with that are, you can maybe play like Sybil, Scyther, Rahab, or something like that. But not all of those are really like, I guess, like optimal turns. Like, but at least with Dragon Council, you get the option to fish for fish for a few more options. And usually the discard doesn't really matter, because usually in the later stages of the game you'll just be discarding either like Lyriels or Aelas, and I'll be fine. Oh, and occasionally you'll be maybe discarding Blazing Breaths, and that's okay too, just because you need to have options, and you need to just like stay afloat, because Dragon first and foremost is a control deck. And as control, you want to be able to draw as many cards as possible, because more cards seen equals more options. 3 Sybil is standard. There's not really much to talk about here. It's just a really good transitional card, and most times when you get it down, it helps you get to the later stages of the game, and it's just really annoying for a lot of decks to deal with this. That's good. 3 Fervor, again, you want card draw, and Fervor is really nice because it ramps, it heals, and it gives you 2 cards. It's one of the better cards that Dragon has. 3 Sahawkwill. Sahawkwill is honestly one of the best neutral legends in the game. Actually just straight up one of the best legends in the game, period. It works. It's really nice because Dragon has an issue with like regaining evolve points. You don't want to play Dark Angel Olivia because she's kind of slow, and versus the matchups where you might want her in, she doesn't actually do that much, and she usually kind of puts you into an awkward position. Whereas like with Sahawkwill, if you have targets for it, it represents three additional evos they might get per game. So instead of having say 2 or 3, you could have 5 or 6. It has a lot of utility attached, just because there are certain neutrals who can like activate their effects with Sahawkwill, such as, for example, Israfil, Zeus, or Lucifer. In this deck, you'll mainly want to be hitting Sahawkwill, and you'll want to be hitting Zeus. With Israfil, you can get a 2 damage AoE. This is nice because a lot of times people kind of forget cards that you show them. And I've had like a lot of games in which I'll show people an Israfil on 8 via Sahawkwill. And then they'll flood their board, but leave it with 2 HP targets, and I just go ahead and go Israfil Evo on 9, and get a massive just like +4 or something like that, and just win the game on the spot. And it's really nice for that. For Zeus, the way Sahakville works with Zeus is that it'll give the Zeus rush, but the rush won't matter because Zeus also has Storm. So occasionally in some matchups, like for example versus Nep, something they can do is you can go Sahakville, throw it down the Zeus, have the Zeus hit their face, and this is really nice because you can. Because you can set up prolonged like damage chains in which you can maybe like do that maybe once or twice, and then have a Grimnir, and then follow up with the third Zeus for the kill, because that's 5, 5, 7. That's 21 damage, provided that you evo one of the Zeuses. And then lastly, you can go Sahakville plus Bahamut. This is nice in the rare occasion in which you don't have Zeus, especially in the Dragon Mirror, just because you can show them the Zeus. You can show them the Bahamut, and a lot of people, they'll play differently. A lot of the better players, they'll play differently if they know you have a Bahamut in hand, and they'll be more unlikely to make bad plays or for example bad floods. They'll leave themselves open up to Bahamut. Like for example, they'll maybe like stop playing Ouroboros for one turn and try to flood out with Sybil plus like Rahab or something like that, and they can just go ahead and Bahamut, or maybe they'll try to play out a Polyroar or a Polyphonic Roar or something like that. You can go ahead and punish that way too. However, you don't want to just like throw out your Bahamut like that in the Dragon Mirror, just because unless you have a second one, or unless you're trying to bait for something, you don't want to do it. And then lastly, to Ouroboros. Ouroboros is really nice because Ouroboros is basically like a late game wall breaker for Dragon, because he demands so many resources for some decks to continue having to deal with him, because a lot of people kind of freak out about his 8 attack. 8 attack is a lot, but however, Dragon usually can't kill you in like one shot unless you took like a lot of damage prior. But he's still really good just because people don't really understand how to play into him yet. The last card is Imperial Dragoon. Imperial Dragoon is nice. It's a one-off for me just because it gets you a lot of 2-turn lethal setups that you wouldn't otherwise get. Like for example, Imperial Dragoon for 7 or 8 with Bahamut is 21 damage. It's 21 damage. And that's like without evos. With Ouroboros, it can be up to 18 damage with an evo, 16 damage without. And you typically will get your Dragoon off for 7 or 8, provided you can keep cards in hand. And part of why I like the Dragoon in this list is just because I have 3 different draw 2 or 3 cards, and then later in the game, Oracle also draws you a card. So you tend to stay up on a lot of cards, provided you manage out your resources well, and provided that you slowly use Ouroboros to regain a hand size. If you perhaps use some cards early on to try to ramp. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys a game. Yeah, I played versus a lot of Haven and Shadow today. You can't really see that many of the Haven games on my thing. However, I think I played versus like 5 or 6 in a row, and I was kind of surprised because I don't really see Haven that often. All right. Alright, so this game was actually kind of weird, if I'm not mistaken. Versus Haven, you want to try to hard mulligan for ramp. I get really lucky, and I get Oracle plus Fervor. Versus slower decks, if you get Oracle plus Fervor, that just puts you so far ahead. Just because you get to ramp, and then the Oracle refunds you. Sorry, and then the Fervor refunds you the card they used. Refunds you the cost for the Oracle, as well as heals you, as well as gets you additional cards. All right, so here you might be wondering, okay, why did he play out Liriel and why did he not play out Oracle? I didn't play out Oracle here just because he played Unica on 2, and versus Haven, you don't always know what type of Haven you're up against until it's too late. And I didn't want for him to randomly be Alana's, and I wanted, if he was Alana's, for this to for me playing Liriel to discourage him from playing that, just because Liriel would get to trade into it for free. Additionally, if I were to, for example, top deck Ayala next turn, that would be okay if he were to go Black Inscripture, just because he won't have a Black Inscripture for the second Ayala most likely, or sorry, for the Ayala most likely if he uses one on Liriel, and that'll still work out fine. Additionally, if I don't draw Ayala next turn, then what I can do is I can go Oracle, and that'll still be the same thing as if I played it last turn, just because the turn after, I want to go ahead and play Fervor. Like, so right now, like, my timeline for how I want to make these plays is I want to go turn 3 Oracle, turn 4 Fervor, turn 5 Sybil. That'll be a nice 3 ramp. I'll also have drawn additional cards, and the card that I'm really looking for most here is I'm looking for Sahakweal. Just because versus Haven, Haven is one of those matchups in which you can kind of do the combo that I talked about earlier, which is to go Sahakweal for Zeus and hit them in the face. Oops. Yeah. Additionally, he could also play Grimnir here. That would be unfortunate, but he doesn't have any plays. He passes. That's good for me. I draw the Israfil. I go ahead and trade, just because I don't want to take any more damage, and yeah, and he has a dead hand, and I'm going to get the Fervor anyway, so this is nice. Alright, so for this turn, I honestly just misplayed. I kind of forgot how many cards I had in my hand. And I could have just easily gone to 10, but I wanted to see as many cards as possible. And I do get punished for it. Like, I do mill the Sahakweal and next turn, whereas I could have just like drawn a bunch of more cards. So I go Sybil, and I also go Dragoon Scyther. This is nice because it gives him 2 bodies that he has to deal with. Sybil is at 4, so he can't just banish it, and it might bait out a Themis for free. Him Themising this board is really nice because if he has a Themis for this, he might not have a Themis for when I Bahamut next turn. However, he does use Tribunal. Tribunal versus Dragon is actually one of the best things you can do. It's just so good. So here, I go Zeus. I do misplay here quite a bit, actually. I needed to Evo Zeus just because if he had, for example, Judge of Retribution or any relevant 6-drop in Haven, such as like Dark John, or maybe like Valhalla in general or something, he could have very well played that and then cleared my Zeus for free. The other part of why that's a misplay is because the Tribunal is on 2 ticks, so next turn he could for example play Aegis and then also deny me from playing anything into the Tribunal. I don't have as much Storm as certain other Dragon decks would have, so it's really important for me that any damage that I get, that it has to stick and that it has to be repetitive damage. However, to me, my thinking at the time was, which again was completely incorrect, was that okay, I'm gonna use an Evo for I'm gonna use an Evo for Scyther, and I'm also gonna use an Evo for Zeus. I might maybe need an Evo for Israfil, and that's why I was being conservative. However, that was again incorrect, because if he is, for example, Seraph, because he remember he did pass quite a few turns. If he is Seraph here, I won't have enough damage to kill him because I'm not playing Genesis Dragon. So here he Evos. I'm just like, okay, well, it's getting banished. And again, it was important that the Zeus stick, just because I needed that to hit him in the face at least once more. Because now, even if I go Zeus Evo this turn, because he has Judge of Retribution on board, that'll be enough to clear it. That'll be enough to clear it if he has Aegis, which again he most likely has, because he did pass quite a few turns. Generally, when Haven passes a few turns, that's kind of like a telltale sign to you that okay, they have Aegis. He does have the Aegis. And again, the Tribunal is popping next turn. The Tribunal popping next turn is important because it means that I can't just try to flood out the board or anything like that, just because if he has like a second Tribunal in his hand, he can go ahead and clear out whatever I play with the Tribunal and then go face. So I play Grimnir here to set up a 2-turn lethal. There was merit to me going Scyther. However, I felt like if I went Scyther, he would try to go Curate or something like that, and I would maybe need a way to clear the Curate. However, he goes Grimnir of his own, thinking he's safe. Because generally, versus Dragon, if you put a taunt in the way, they can't. They usually can't hit you with storm damage in that same turn. However, I top deck Ouroboros, and that's the game. But again, very big misplay on my part to not Evo the Zeus. You want to be conscious of what your opponent's doing, and you want to try to set up 2-turn lethals whenever possible, just because you don't want to give your opponent time. Like, you want to be doing as much unfair things to him as possible. You want to have him under a lot of pressure, because most times people don't deal well under pressure. Like they tend to kind of like freak out or whatever, and maybe make suboptimal plays due to fear. This game is going to be the Dragon Mirror. So again, I start off with a nice hand of Oracle plus Fervor. This is really nice, especially in the mirror, just because generally the person who gets the Fervor first in the mirror usually tends to just be like far and above ahead of the other person for the remainder of the game. I'm also going second. This is nice for me too, especially because he didn't have Oracle, just because I have one additional Evo than him. Like with the hand that I have, it's gonna reward me for this, just because there's not much that A can do, because like he didn't have the Oracle on 2. If he tries to Fervor after me, he's gonna be in an awkward spot, just because I have Bahamut's in my hand, I have double Grimnir in my hand. I have a pretty good hand. The only thing that I'm missing is an Ouroboros in this hand. Alright, so here I go Sybil. This goes ahead and puts me to 9. Because he ramped twice. Actually, let me again pause. Because he was able to ramp twice, this part is really important. He's going to be at 8 mana next turn, and on 8 mana, we already know, okay, he's gonna play Ouroboros. The Ouroboros right now is actually a very, very big problem, because I don't have a counter Ouroboros, and I don't have a hand that can like that can be fine with just, letting a robber stay on the board. I do have a Breath of the Salamander for it. However, if I Breath of the Salamander, that means I'm gonna pass a turn, and he's just gonna replay a Ouroboros for free, because in the Dragon Mirror, if allowed, but both dragon players will go ahead and play a Ouroboros till the end of the game. And if he did have the Ouroboros, one thing that I might have had to do, as desperate and as weird as that sounds, is I might have had to go Breath of the Salamander, and then Ayala, and then also Evo the Ayala in the same turn, just because in the Dragon Mirror you don't want to have 4 HP. Yeah, you don't want to have 3 HP or less targets, just because Ouroboros is going to come down, Ouroboros is going to snipe them, and then they're going to die. So he does have the Ouroboros, and again, this is still a very, very tenuous situation for me, because Polyphonic Roar is pretty popular, and if he did have it here, then it would mean that I would have to premature Bahamut it next turn, and that would have been an issue for me, because if he did have a Bahamut as well, I would still be in a very, very bad spot, because he'll still have an Ouroboros, and I'm gonna have to throw in a Zeus if he has the Bahamut. However, this turn right here is actually going to showcase why Liriel is so good at times over, say, other opponents such as Mushisu and Unica. So I'm gonna go Liriel plus Liriel Evo, ping the Ouroboros, put it to 3 HP, play Ayala, and then play Breath of the Salamander for 3 in order to clear off their Ouroboros, and then also establish 2 cards on the board. This is important because he's going to 9 mana, and usually people kind of overcommit to certain cards in the Dragon Mirror, and they tend to throw away a lot of free evos. This is important because I'm playing Sahakville Dragon. Unless he himself is also playing Sahakville Dragon, then him giving me additional evos is a mistake. This is actually one of those more nuanced plays that I have to realize that, okay, well, I can do this, and this will be fine. Because I have two targets on the board, he can't play anything with four or less HP, and he's most likely going to have to evo back into me with his Ouroboros. He does choose to do that, and right now, I'm fine if I top deck one of two things. If I top deck Bahamut, I'm fine. If I top deck Sahakville or Bahamut, I'm fine. But I get Fervor. The Fervor is fine because I have Blazing Breath in my hand, so I can just go ahead and ping off Ouroboros. He can replay it if he wants, and that's fine. Just because he hasn't drawn as many cards as I have, so I'm actually 4 cards ahead of him right now. Generally, being ahead in the mirror is important, just because you have a higher propensity of being able to chain Bahamuts and Bahamut wars, and that's important because usually it's very hard to kill a Bahamut, even for Dragon, even with Scyther, because you only have Scyther, you have your own Bahamut, and you have Ouroboros plus Evo, but you don't want to use Evos like that just to clear an Ouroboros. Yeah. So I do just slam down my second Bahamut. I'm just okay, do you have a third Bahamut? If you do, cool. If not, you lose. And here he gets ballsy. He plays Genesis. I still have an Evo point left, so right now either Zeus plus Evo or Genesis Dragon will be lethal. However, I decided to go ahead and style on him a little bit and play out my Imperial Dragoon, just because that animation is so nice. And I go ahead and lethal him. He 100% wasn't expecting that, because he actually emoted when we played. What? Because Imperial Dragoon is one of those cards that you just never see, just because people think it's bad, people think it's the meme and whatnot. That's not the case by any stretch of the imagination. However, hey, more power to me. Because you always want to have like your tech choices to give yourself a better percentage chance of winning whenever possible. Just because every 1 to 2% does matter, and it can change your matchups from being like say a 45% to suddenly being like a 55% in like the blink of an eye. And it's really important to know to be aware of what options you have, just so that way you can you can make better overall decks and have a better time on ladder. But that's enough for this live. This is part 1. I'm gonna have a part 2 maybe later today. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.